Welcome to IVF This, handling the holidays IVF style. Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. After 10 years of primary and secondary infertility due to both male and female factor infertility, I am now the mother to 3 beautiful miracles. I am married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you how to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go. Hello, my beautiful friends. I almost stumbled on that last hello. Gosh, that's embarrassing. Anyway, it's so good to talk with you guys. Before we get started on this episode, which is reaching back into the vault, it was like one of the first 5 episodes I ever released around how to kind of navigate the holidays, the holiday parties, the intrusive questions. I think it's a really solid framework for how you manage those more difficult conversations, choosing yourself in moments where when people are being a little careless with their words. There's a lot of parties around Christmas. There's some alcohol and stress, all of those things that usually lead to people being careless with their words in the best of circumstances. And that's not a problem, but the goal of this episode is to make sure that you take care of you during this time. Holidays are incredibly painful for many of us in the in-between of wanting our family and having our family. And so having that support is really important. And so that's why I wanted to bring this episode back, because this episode is 3 years old. So you may never have heard it before. And if you have, I think it's worth a revisit. But it's also something from a personal standpoint I want to share with you guys, that I have had a hard time the last few weeks, couple of months. Physically, there's been a lot going on. Logistically, there's been a lot going on in my life. And so I'm going to do what I encourage all of you to do, is when you know that you need to take a little bit of a break, that you take a little bit of a break. So I'm going to be taking a 6-week break from IVF This. The next new episode that you hear from me will be in mid-January. And I think it's important to take a break, come back, rest, rejuvenated, and ready to knock things out of the park. IVF This is not going anywhere. I am not going anywhere. In fact, if you still need support, I still have an open calendar for new clients, for consultations, the Take Back Your Life call. None of that is stopping. I still have a client list on my docket already. I just need to take a step back from the podcast for a little bit and content creation. So if my Instagram or Facebook is a little bit quieter than normal, that's the only reason. I'm going to say this again. I'm not going anywhere, but I do need to take a little bit of time for me to come back better for all of you. And so that's my goal over the next 6-ish weeks. So enjoy this episode. Everything that I've told you, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not crazy. This is a really hard time. This is a really hard thing to experience. And so take whatever time you need, whatever resources you feel like you need to pull together to best support yourself. That's the thing that I want you to focus on. What are the things that you need to do to set yourself up to care for yourself during a very tender time in your life? So I'm not going anywhere. You will see me back in your podcast feeds in a few weeks. I hope you have a beautiful holiday season, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Welcome to IVF This, Holiday Edition. I wanted to include this bonus episode for the holiday season. I think it's important that we recognize the implications of our journey when we have large family gatherings. There's going to be a lot of triggers. And I got a DM on Instagram from one of my followers that spoke directly to this. And so I thought it would be helpful to go over the question and the response for my listeners as well. So this is what she wrote. Hi, Coach. I've followed you for a while, and I really like how you talk about taking personal responsibility for our emotions during this journey. I'm curious how you would handle a nosy relative that asks inappropriate questions and makes inappropriate comments. Now, all of this, of course, bearing in mind we might not even have the get together because of COVID, but I'm curious. I'll give you an example. Last year during Christmas, a relative that I'll call Aunt Judy came up to me before dinner and said, I thought last year you guys said you were going to have a baby. I guess that's not really working out, huh? Now, granted, she had gotten into the eggnog and probably had a couple of glasses of wine too, but it really hurt. I just kind of laughed it off and said something like, well, we're trying. But inside, I died. I couldn't really enjoy myself for the rest of the night. When I left, I broke down, and it took me a couple of days to get out of my funk. I feel like she should have known better, you know? Like, how can you not know better than to say something like that? Once I got over being totally crushed about it, I just got really mad, and now I absolutely dread seeing her and the rest of my family this year. How do I handle this? How would you handle this? Would you tell her to F off? Would you nod and awkwardly laugh and keep feeling terrible? I don't know. Maybe this year will be different. I pray it will be different this year. I need it to be different this year. I can't do this again. Anyway, any help you can give me would be greatly appreciated. Okay, this is such a great question. First, these are all the kinds of things I love digging into because it happens to all of us at one point or another, right? How many of us have had a scenario exactly like this? Maybe it's not your aunt. Maybe it's your mother-in-law, a distant cousin, your mom's best friend from like 40 years ago that brings that nasty-ass fruitcake to every party. It happens to all of us. So this was my response. Thank you so much for reaching out. I love this question so much, and I love that you recognize that there is an element of personal responsibility. First, I'm a big believer in planning ahead of time how I would think, feel, and react to a given situation. Now, I'm not talking about overanalyzing every possible scenario and forecasting awfulness to come. That doesn't serve us at all. But to realistically plan for things that might or are likely to come up. So every year Aunt Judy shows up, and every year she starts asking you about when you're going to have kids. She just says stuff every year. But here's what we do. Okay, I'm going to holiday dinner. I hope this year is different. She shouldn't say things like that to me. She should know better. We go in totally unprepared. So many of us do this. You know what we go in like? Like Aunt Judy had a lobotomy last year and is suddenly a different person. Or like an alien took over her body. Like she magically got hit on the head with the don't say douchey things to people who are trying to conceive stick. That's not fair to us. Not what she says, because I'm not debating the appropriateness of it, but that we don't take the time to prepare for it to be said. Now, I know what you're going to say, but I shouldn't have to. But that's a little bit of a lie, right? We think we shouldn't have to, but it's just arguing with reality. The fact is, we can't get people to stop saying stupid things. In the past, this is what I've done. I would tell myself, you know what's going to happen? Aunt Judy is going to say some BS. Just like every year. You know why? Because she doesn't know any better. If she knew, she probably would have stopped by now. But so far, she's been on a roll the last few years, and she has stayed very on brand for Judy. If nothing else, Aunt Judy is consistent. She's consistently an ass. And we can still love her, even when she acts like an ass. So for me, I decide ahead of time not to take her BS personally anymore. I think I'm going to decide ahead of time how I want to think and feel about myself and my journey. And she can say whatever the hell she wants to, because I literally can't stop her. And if she starts up, I can get up and walk out of the room because I don't owe it to her to engage. I don't owe it to her to answer her questions, and I don't owe her a polite smile or an awkward laugh. I don't owe her anything. I owe it to me to not get pissed off, to not hurt, to not let her asinine questions or comments ruin my time with my family. I owe it to me to not sit there in shame and anguish over an idiotic comment. You know what I owe myself? Grace, compassion, and love. I do that by recognizing that sometimes Aunt Judy is an idiot. I'm sorry, it has to be said. Sometimes she's an idiot. I do that by saying no thank you to shame, anger, and self-loathing. I don't need you guys to get through this holiday. I'm good. That's how you set yourself up. That is how you have your own back. You want to know how to best treat yourself during the holiday? Stop reacting to everybody's effing opinions and comments. It doesn't serve you. So many of us already know exactly what is going to happen at the family gatherings because it happens like that every year. Maybe the topic isn't always about families and having kids, but nobody's changed. So if nobody's changed, then stop walking in the door thinking they should be different. That's the worst thing that we can do to ourselves over the holidays. Thinking people should be different, and then when it turns out they're not, we suffer. Nobody should be different. Everybody is exactly the way they're supposed to be. You know what we should be? We can choose to be different with our thinking about ourselves. If you really love yourself, respect yourself, or want to love and respect yourself, and you are unapologetically you, then when people throw garbage at you, you step out of the way. People are always going to have opinions. I used to dread, and I mean dread, talking to people that I hadn't seen in a while because I knew they were going to bring up having kids and that invariably one of those idiotic comments like, just relax, or something would come up. And I would be seething all day and into the next. But it wasn't necessary. I know it doesn't feel like we have any other option. It's either we seethe or we feel like we have to be an a-hole to them or about them, but we don't have to. We don't have to let someone's idiotic comment throw us into a tailspin. Why? Because it doesn't do anything for us. Being angry at someone doesn't impact them at all. They can't feel it. Sure, you might shoot daggers their way or make snarky comments, but they don't feel the anger and the resentment. Only you do. I used to get so indignant when anyone would say, just relax, or you're just trying too hard. It would fester in me for hours and sometimes days. It would either fuel my anger or it would fuel my self-hatred. But the other person, the one that made the comment, they never even gave it another thought. The moment our conversation was over, they moved on with their lives. That's why it doesn't do anything for us. That's why it doesn't serve us. Very often, I'm in conversations or interactions where I am being told how I should parent, how I should look, what I should say, and how I should say it. I get all the opinions about my life and my business. And I just sit back and listen. On the inside, I'm forming my own opinions about myself and how I want to think about me and holding strong to how I view me and my life choices. Now, I answered it this way because she specifically asked me how I would handle it. And I recognize that this comes from many years of self-coaching and being coached. But the basic principle of this is that if you don't like how you feel when something is said to you, then you change your reaction to it. We cannot control the Aunt Judys of the world. As much as we would like to, we can't. And trying to control them only leads to us feeling worse. I can just imagine you might be saying, well, I just can't walk away. That would be rude. That's a pretty universal response when I talk about this. But the thing is, when you're giving your polite smile or awkward laugh and then going on to ruminate for days about the interaction, you're only being rude to yourself. So which one is more important? Not being rude to Aunt Judy or not being rude to yourself? You're being rude to yourself by beating yourself up and thinking really unpleasant things about Aunt Judy. Now, there are polite ways of excusing yourself out of a conversation. But the point that I really want to drive home is that you don't have to justify or explain yourself to anyone ever. If you are an adult, which I'm going to assume you are if you're listening to a podcast about IVF, then you get to make whatever choice in that moment that you want to make. And I, personally, will always err on the choice that best serves me. I think so much of us suffer, especially during the holidays when extended family is around and there are a whole bunch of kiddos and reminders of what we don't have yet because it triggers you to worry about what other people are thinking about you. Or it feeds the lies that you tell yourself about how horrible you are and that you don't deserve your happiness or your family. Instead, take time to think about how you think about yourself, what you think of yourself. That's the highest level of service we can give ourselves. That is the greatest form of love, compassion, and grace that we can provide ourselves. So I hope this was helpful. I know I got a little bit excited there, but I love answering questions like this. So if you have a question that you would love me to answer, you can send me a message through my Facebook or my Instagram accounts, which are both at Instagram at IVF This Coaching and Facebook at IVF This Coaching. Or you can send me an email at hello@ivfthiscoaching.com. I hope you guys have a beautiful holiday. I adore you, and you've got this.